God is trying to say, because that's not God. That's not Him. If you know the Word, then you'll find out, hey, wait a minute, I'm confused. Wait a minute, that can't be God. I better not listen. I better get calmed down so I can hear God. I better get calmed down so I can understand what He's trying to say. But if you don't know the Word enough, you'll follow the wrong path. And that's what's going on with so many people today. So many believers today. And I've even caught my own self in the same situation, to be honest with you. Panicking or confusion or chaos when necessity arises, and running and trying to figure out what I need to do here and there, instead of just being patient and relaxing down, because it's so important that we understand that God is trying to work all this out in us, that tribulation worketh patience, and patience experience. Now, if you was going to hire somebody, for your company, would you rather have somebody that's experienced and knows what they're doing, or somebody you're going to have to train? See, God is training us. And He wants us to be experienced in all these things. And these life situations we're going through is giving us experience. So now He's bringing us up, and as we gain this experience, then He can trust us more and more in using us with the power of God. And I think today that's why we don't see as much power of God used in the church that was used in the first church. Why? Because begin with the faith factor. I'm concerned about what level we're really at about the faith factor to even begin with. But when tribulations come, we're already panicking. So we can't even build patience, because we're done running and trying to figure out everything ourselves, going with the carnal mind, so we can't even get to the experienced state. Because we're either running from the storm, or when we go through the storm, we didn't learn anything. We just went through it, and then God loves us enough, as we said, we're going to have to go through it again somewhere down the road. Because He's going to teach us and give us experience that we can grow. And then He said, finally, hope. That you have hope. With hope, that it grows into all things. When you got hope in God, there's nothing impossible. Nothing impossible. See, this is what it's all about. Right now, there's people right now that have weak areas. As we said, all are uniquely different. Areas that you're weak in, I may not be. Areas that you're strong in, I may not be. I may act differently in situations than what you would. I may think differently in situations than what you would. But I think the enemy is using these things against believers today to think that people don't love them and don't care for them, when they really do deep down. They just act differently because we're formed differently. And we count it as, well, they don't care nothing about me because they won't do what I'm asking them to do. When the simple fact is, you don't realize that that person may have a great fear to do what you're asking them to do. They may have a great fear of situations that you think, well, what's wrong with that? That's the simplest thing in the world, to get up and sing this song. Why, who can't do that? There's some people in here with great fear to get before people and speak. There's some people in here with great fear to stand up and before people and say things. They are. When I remember when in my high school, when we done our high school play, or whenever I have a funeral, structured things, I can rattle at my knees. I can speak I can take a sermon and run with it, but if you give me a structured sermon, I'll be rattling with everything in me shaking before me. I don't know why, but things that's structured like that, whenever it's structured, I'm nervous. And I'm just so nervous when I speak. But some of you may be able to take the most structured thing and be just as mellow as can be about it. See, I don't like doing the obituary part because it's structured, but I continue to do it because in my weakness I can become strong. The more I do it and trust God, I grow, and the more experience I get, I grow hope, and I take on greater things. And this is just something a little simple. So what about the big things in your life? When you learn to trust God and have faith in Him, and learn to take hold of the situation, and learn to have patience in Him that grows experience, that grows hope, think how far you can go if you can just come out of your comfort zone. But believers today want to stay in a comfort zone. They do. They want to stay in a place where they don't have to come out and get their weaknesses exposed. They want to run with their strengths as far as they can and leave their weaknesses behind. They want to leave those things and let them weaknesses be left and not expose them out. Well, I'm going to tell you something right now. You know where they're at. God knows where they're at. And Satan knows where they're at. And that's where he's going to attack you at. So you've got to be able to grow strong in those weak areas, so that he can't have a way of entering in through those weak areas. Because if he can get in one place, then he's going to start tearing down them strongholds. He's going to start tearing down them strength areas, because your mind's going to be so full of the other things that he's bringing at you, you're going to be a weak puppy. You're going to have great necessity. But where are we at tonight? Where are we at as far as trusting God? As far as bringing Him forward and as far as trusting Him in everything that He does? Because it's even in the faith chapter, and it's in Hebrews 11:33-34. I won't read it exactly to you. But it even said that because of their faith, in their weakness, they were made strong. When they faced the lions, when they faced the situations before them, in their weakness, because of faith, they were made strong. They were made stronger. They were made stronger in all things that they did. And they were picked up and they were uplifted in everything that they did. Tonight, where do you stand at with that? Where do you stand at with everything that God is trying to do? Are you really understanding? Have you been listening to yourself the last week or two? And where are you at right now as far as grade level with God? Where are you at as far as listening to Him and going through problems and situations? Is the most minor problem right now giving you great weakness? Is the most minor situations right now destroying you? Are the most minor things causing you to have a down day, that we can't even have no happiness? Because Paul said, I can be happy in the biggest tribulations, the biggest necessities. I've learned to be content in any state. I've learned to be content when I have food, and I've learned to be content when I don't. I've learned to have all these things. And that's what God is trying to do. But if the church don't learn, if they don't learn what God is trying to do, if they don't get the knowledge and get the help and get the strength that God is trying to give us, we're going to end up in such a place that it's going to be bad for us. It's going to be terrible for us. Because it was even, we read to you in the past about 1 Peter 4, about how we glorify God in the midst of the storm. The world, they bring God down. But the believer glorifies God in it. That's 1 Peter 4:14, by the way. It says we lift Him up if we lift Him up. But we don't lift God up if we got our head hung down, crying the blues, belly aching, about all these situations going on. We're no different in the world. And I think that's what's happened. We picked up the worldly habits. We picked up the worldly things. And tonight there's people in here that's got weakness. There's people in here with necessity. There's people in here that need strength. There's people in here that needs help. And whether you're in it right now, it will come somewhere down the road. And it's not because God hates you. He's not doing it to punish you. People think God's wrath upon them. They ain't seen the wrath of God. If you could see Sodom and Gomorrah, you're looking at a little bit of wrath of God. You're looking at a little bit of what was the wrath of things. And people think they're under the wrath of God, think He's forgot about them, think He's let them go, and think He's trying to destroy them. When all He's doing is loving us. It's all about the love of God and how He's trying to grow us up. What situations is He taking you through right now? What storms or necessities? What persecutions? What problems are you going through? What things are you going through that you should be understanding?